they can get rolling, they can actually take over the game as well. Because if you look at the heroes, right, they have a lot more snowball potential though. Until if they can just avoid getting caught out, getting locked down by crowd control.
That's true. That's true. Both of the teams have set their composition in stone as we head straight into the portal here for game number 1 between EVOS as well as GEEK Fam. Will GEEK Fam's pickoff potential and very aggressive composition work against EVOS Legends that really need a little bit more time to get into that mid game?
I think for me personally, I am very biased towards mid control, and EVOS Legends have definitely got that down with the Faramis plus the Kaja. These waves are going to be cleared out super fast, and we all know, even though Geek Slate has kind of fixed that mistake where they rely too much on Beloy, it's still there sometimes. And if Beloy doesn't get to roam across the map, EVOS Legends are going to be able to take control fully of the game and even the enemy jungle.
I think it all comes down to later on the teamfight execution, because in the early game, I think even if Geek doesn't really get that mid control, they will still be able to play around it. Of course, once level 4 rolls around, EVOS Legends can go for the more decisive pickup potential, be more aggressive plays with the Cult Altar as well, so Geek Slate will have to wait until a bit later as Taz already makes a big move right here.
Good retribution by Janna, but asking the Hijume, who brings Janna back. The heavy spin as well to pop in him, but it's going to be Beloyski now, who comes in with a disengage. Going to be stunned up, immobilized, and taken down. Taz with the first blood, but Janna finds another. Janna going invisible, but will be caught in the slam of Psychots, as it's an all-out skirmish in the bottom side. A boy needs to be careful here. Taz deals a lot. That's a flicker by Luke. A boy is going to fall into triple kill to the Panda early on in the first minute of the game.
Very aggressive by EVOS Legends, even though, like you mentioned, Arashi, most of the members of their team rely on that level 4 power spike. But even before that, because of the base damage, because of the potential, they were able to be aggressive against Geek Slate and even prevent Janna Cutie from getting much on the board. And now, EVOS Legends, they're going to have a really good time at getting this neutral objective. And this is what I was concerned about, the neutral objective control. The Akai versus the Amon. Amon, sure, has a damage, is really good at that pick-off game, but when it comes down to those objectives, it seems really hard for Geek Slate to get even a single pick. And as you can see here, Talent's prediction, only Arashi and Ranger Irmas, actually, you guys vied for Geek Slate. Why is this?
Well, everyone loves an underdog story, and I'm no exception. I do think that, honestly, in the drafts, they're at a bit of a disadvantage. But I think that if with the right kind of maneuvers, right, with the right kind of plays and plans for Geek Slate, they will be able to try and circumvent those issues, like we saw in the previous matches they tried. Sometimes they make bold maneuvers that don't always work out, but I think that is what you need to do to try and get an advantage, despite not really having a clear-cut lead in the drafting phase. But now in the top side, though, EVOS Legends makes the play, but they get denied.
It comes down again to that mid-control. Beloy and Chidera sandwiched down. Dreams gonna be able to escape from that one, but a heavy spin locks Beloy in place. That's the Cult Altar. Good response by a boy stealing it away. Beloy not gonna go for the cheese pick or engage here, as EVOS Legends and Geek Slate both choose to disengage. It's still EVOS Legends with the proactive movements on the map, but Geek Slate again with crazy reactions.
The right idea though, right? EVOS Legends, they understand the prowess that Chidera has on the Moskov that can carry them into the late game, and therefore they look for a pick. But you're right, Geek Slate, really good response, very good defensive, and Chidera doesn't seem to get picked off just yet. But remember, this is still going to be one of the main problem for EVOS Legends in the late game.
If you look at Geek Slate, they were able to try to even out in that fight, but they used a lot of battle spells to even make it that even. Whereas for EVOS Legends, they have a lot more tools at their disposal, so they don't really rely as heavily on the battle spells. So that is a big advantage that EVOS Legends can try and use. So Geek Slate, on the other hand, will have to try and time it out as Beloyski here gets zoned away. And as you mentioned, Eterna, this neutral objective control is going to be so difficult.
Dreams with an amazing Divine Judgment onto Janna. He's going to be locked down, and Taz picks up the mega kill. Psychops is massive, immobilizing 3, and there is the collapse. Luke now going to be taken down. That's a double for the Panda, who's 5-0. Hijume wreaking havoc once again into that back line, and Geek Slate are forced to back away. The Spear of Destruction has been used up. The Divine Judgment by a boy, bringing Dreams back, and that's Shadera dealing damage, but Dreams is still able to escape somehow, some way. They're able to bait everything out, and look at BRANZ already doing what he usually does, rotating to the mid lane.
That's a lot of damage being dealt, and EVOS Legends used all their flickers there to ensure that they get that lead. It's a 3-0 for EVOS Legends. They extend their gold lead by 2K. So for GEEK, now they have to try and damage control here because EVOS Legends have momentum. They have the engages to pick off for those big team fights as well. And even if they try and get a counter engage, GEEK will be denied by the Cult Altar. So they have to try and find a really good team fight where their combos can actually land properly. Because unless, let's say, Beloyski goes for a huge Am Offended followed up by Luke and a Boy, it might not be enough.
Dreams here, that's a lot of resources popped in already. That's a kill over to Jana QT. Dreams taken down. But again, EVOS Legends, they're doing a really good job at letting their roamers or their utility take the deaths for the others.
I mean, to be honest, we're in that stage where the damage from Geek Slate, it's not really there yet, right? And every time Geek Slate want to go in for an engage, let's say Jana Cutie wants to pick off, let's say, BRANZ, Kijume comes in with a Cult Altar, creates miscalculations, and then the damage just doesn't sink through. And EVOS Legends, with BRANZ being on the carry, has way better DPS than Moskov right now, especially because he's a little bit behind. And if you take a look at the player's gold, it says exactly what I just mentioned. BRANZ is still way more farmed than Chidera right now, and you can see it happening, how much damage that they're able to protrude onto one another.
On the other hand, Taz is ahead, and actually, Geek Slate goes with aggressive play here.
BRANZ gonna be pinned down to the wall. That's a mistake. Dreams jumps over to the Divine Judgment, and this is gonna be a very, very expensive mistake. Luke flickering in, gets the taunt down onto Dreams, and that's gonna be the damage coming in, but the Cult Altar saves Dreams' life. Meanwhile, Psychots again onto the back line, is able to zone Chidera away. The split brings him back with Jana actually able to steal the turtle somehow from Taz, who is 2 levels ahead. Chidera gonna be slain by Hijume and Psychots. The 2v2 up top continues as Beloy does not go for the I'm Offended just yet. There you go. That's Taz with a heavy spin, getting the damage out. But still, Geek Slate are still in this game.
That's intelligent, right? Because 5v5, we saw it didn't work, and Geek Slate, they picked it up. So what did they do? They started to go for the split. They saw that EVOS Legends, because of the lead that BRANZ has, is going to be a little bit more overconfident in the top side. They were able to capitalize over it, take him down, and then they proceeded onto the neutral objective. And I think that's the only way that is going to work. They need to make the team fights messy. They need to make the formation from EVOS Legends messy in order for them to finally get something out of it.
Well, if you look at the items as well, it's going to be very difficult for Geek Slate to get a pickup because Taz and Psychots both are very ahead and they have built that Radiant armor. So you saw earlier the shards from Jana Cutie doesn't do nearly enough damage for them to try and attempt to pick off the front line for EVOS Legends. So they're relying on Chidera very heavily here for that shred, for that DPS. And until he gets online, and it's going to be very difficult for Geek to try and get anything done. And even later on, there's so much utility from the side of EVOS Legends that Geek Slate needs to play around.
Luke with no respect, I'm Offended, bringing 2 back, but Beloy gets brought back to the turret as well. Now Taz gonna be caught here. That's a lot of damage placed by Jana and a Boy, but he finds a knockup. Jana's gonna be pinned down. The Spear of Destruction all the way from the top side deals some damage back, but now it's the conceal. EVOS Legends are hunting Geek Slate down. Luke is gonna be the targeted taunt, is gonna be able to connect onto BRANZ, but it's only to give him more damage. Hijum is still surviving his Luke's and Appraiser's Wrath doesn't take him down, but he does find it in the end. BRANZ picks up another, and it's a 2-for-1 trade for EVOS Legends right as the Lord spawns in.
It's a 2-for-1 trade, but look at the gold lead. It's actually shrinking for EVOS Legends because Geek Slate, while all that is happening, they've allowed Chidera to farm away and even take away the mid turret from EVOS Legends, and that is something that Geek Slate does so well. But now EVOS try and get compensation. They retaliate by going for this Lord, and Geek Slate are not in a position to try and contest.
Maybe skirmishes, they can win. Pickoffs as well, but neutral objective control is definitely going to be advantageous heavily towards the White Tigers with the Akai.
To be honest, I think Geek Slate really overcommitted onto that, right? Onto that team fight, 2 team fights ago. They took a fight without Chidera anywhere nearby. They didn't have the damage, and eventually they were the ones to get picked off 1 by 1, even despite Chidera being able to get that mid lane. But as you can see here, it's not doing them much right now, but oh my god, here!
Dreams finding a boy, and that's the collapse again. Hijime going to be able to bring them back as Taz rotates over. The heavy spin is going to create so much space for EVOS Legends as Psychots jumps back in, brings Malloy to the fray, and BRANZ picks up a double kill. That 1.7k gold lead that Geek Slate were trying their best to literally minimalize is back. EVOS Legends with full control once again.
Oof, that's a lot of damage, especially because Chidera also does not have any chance to try and create any damage back. He gets picked up early on in the fights, and then afterwards, it's just so difficult for Geek Slate to recover from that situation. One by one, they keep getting picked off, and Taz as well as Psychots here are being such big problems for them because they're just losing out in being able to decide when to fight. Clearly, Baloyski wants to try and make the difference, be the main engage tool for Geek Slate, but they're not being allowed any space at all. And even if they want to try and go for BRANZ in the back line, he is just very well protected, and he's constantly still farming right now, already one level ahead of Kadera, and if things go the same way, it's only going to get further and further from here.
Behind Moskov is a depressed Moskov, right? Because the problem with Moskov is the range is so short that if you're behind, the damage isn't there, the lifesteal isn't there, you're just basically going to die then and there, especially with how much EVOS Legends has to play with, right? You need to be careful of BRANZ, you need to be careful of Taz, you need to be careful of Dreams, you need to even be careful of Psychots. So every time they go for it, it doesn't seem like they are able to get that damage out because of how easily he is to get picked off.
I honestly feel like it's just a composition diff because Chidera, I would say he has equal amounts of, equals amount of chance as BRANZ to deal out damage on the Moskov and the KARRIE. Both very short range. I would actually give it to Chidera for more mobility. Thing is, EVOS Legends' composition, everything. They're able to disperse, isolate, make it so chaotic where Geek Slate cannot have a proper front to back. And we all know, front to back, Moskov, he's a front to back god. With the penetration of basically, his basic attacks, he needs that kind of formation, but EVOS Legends are not giving it to him.
They're not even giving him a team fight because if you look at the items here, Psychot with the Blade Armor and the Radiant Armor is just well equipped to just stay in the front and do a lot of damage. So sometimes in these fights, Chidera does not even get a chance to hit everyone else except for Psychots. He's just completely zoning away that back line. And once he's gone, Aboy and Janna just get picked off by the other sources of crowd control. So like you mentioned, Mirko, they can just do everything so well right here. And that is definitely something that Geek Slate needs to try and find a solution. And maybe to do something differently. Flanking maybe can be a solution, but if they're this far behind, 5k, it's going to be way too difficult because their members don't even last that long.
And even here you can see 2 levels ahead. Taz against Janna. He's trying desperately to get some farm down to get that XP back, but Taz is just playing the Lord Dance really well. Janna always looking for the flanks like you mentioned as I'm Offended connects onto Taz. Still Dreams now, looking forward, getting the Divine Judgment, and Praise's Wrath as well as the Call Ultra will be placed in. Chidera free hitting in the back line, but Janna doesn't find it. It's BRANZ out of all people. Psychot's now going to be the target as Janna finds the kill. That's a lot of damage placed in, and Geek Slate are coming back into the game slowly but surely. If only they got that Lord, they would have been able to actually control the pace now, but still, it's BRANZ coming in clutch for EVOS.
And see, that was a fight where Geek Slate doesn't get flanked out, where Chidera does not get zoned completely by Psychots, and you can see that they actually excel and have a bit more advantage in those situations. So EVOS need to avoid that, and Geek Slate needs to somehow corral EVOS Legends to situations where they can find yet another team fight that looks like that, where everyone is neat, and maybe then, when everyone thinks they know where everyone is, that's where Janna can go for another flank like that. This time he failed to get the Lord, but maybe later on, with a few more items, he will be able to find BRANZ in the midst of a chaotic team fight.
Again, it's the Enhanced Lord in the mid lane. EVOS Legends, they do not have proper siege potential. Range is a big question mark in EVOS Legends' composition. They cannot force a turret take early on here. Luke is able to find a pin down as well with Chidera. Taz might actually be slain here, but he does have the heavy spin. Janna with the flanks, the Praiser's Wrath as well. Taz with the heavy spin and the Cult altered by Hijime with the flicker, bringing him back, saving his jungler. Man, that was great.
It was. They're playing it really well right now. And it's interesting to see, right? Because the amount of times that Geek Slate is able to find success, I believe, is on the back of an initiation by EVOS Legends. I don't think they're as good with the kit that they have to make that first move because of how much disengage that EVOS Legends has. But if you have the heavy spin coming out already, then it would be a little bit more easier for Geek Slate to find their momentum. But Beloyski there, we didn't see it. We didn't see it.
Right, unfortunately, the conceal does not pay off. They have no control, but now EVOS strikes back. They're going on Luke.
Okay, Luke flickering out. Psychos on the back line again onto a boy. The Appraiser's Wrath gets forward, but with the Cult Altar, you can basically say hello to all the HP bars back. Now Beloy with no I'm offended. He's waiting desperately for the cooldown, but Dreams will not let that happen. The Divine Judgment brings him back. BRANZ picks up the Wind of Nature. Now Chidera, Janna, and a boy, the damage dealers, need to be able to defend this right here. A boy still able to disengage for now. The cannon minion in the mid lane is going to be cleared out. EVOS Legends have no seat potential. Back at it again. Geek Slate can clear, but they don't need minions to take that base turret down. And EVOS Legends utilize this, and they still stick to their discipline routes.
Man, Geek Slate, fully vulnerable base. Just one inhibitor turret left standing in the top side, and already a 7,000 gold difference with EVOS Legends leading here in the 15th minute. And unfortunately to say, at this point, even if they all go full item, the damage coming in from KARRIE is going to be a lot more significant than Moskov. And I say this because, like you mentioned before, back then, Miracle, about the WON, right? About the one. The fact that the true damage is still going to come through for BRANZ, it's going to make it a little difficult for Chidera now.
Well, for Geek Slate, though, they have the advantage of having more AoE on Chidera and the big team fights, but it's going to depend on how the fight breaks out. Because if they just try and trade one member on their team, EVOS Legends with the true damage, with a more effective single target damage on that KARRIE will have a significant lead. But for Geek Slate, you can see that they have somehow secured enough potential to actually be a threat for EVOS. And early on, you see that EVOS tries their best to deny that place making, and Beloy tries to go for the I'm offended, does not land it though. And seeing EVOS Legends will be dictating how this fight is going to go.
Psychos again, immobilizing the backline, flickering forward as well. Janna's gonna be caught here, and that's Taz picking up a free Lord. Psychos still a menace as Taz is able to isolate Luke. He's gonna be slain, and that's the Divine Judgment and the Stampede. Chidera looking to replay, but the heavy spin. Look, Chidera in place. What are you supposed to do? It's a triple kill for the king of marksmen. BRANZ is looking for the Maniac, and he will secure it. The Savage is waiting for him in the base. EVOS Legends now with a 9.5 thousand gold lead, and the Enhanced Lord of the mid lane. Janna's gonna be able to clear out the way for now, but they won't give BRANZ the Savage. Hijime wants in, and he gets the killing spree and a wipeout to end the game. A dominant